Let's make a Dubai chocolate bar cake. Welcome back to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. I'm Jill, and boy, do I have a treat for you today. It is kind of cool and cloudy out here in North Carolina, so what better than to make a Dubai chocolate bar cake? It's based on the Dubai chocolate bar, of course, which is just amazing. Chocolate and pistachios together is just magical. So we're going to make a plant-based version of it that is oil-free, sugar-free, all the good stuff, but you are not going to miss that at all. It tastes so good. All right, so we're going to jump in there. All of our pantry ingredients today are from our partner Essential Organics, who carry over 600 organic products. And if you want to check them out, you can use the code PLANTBASEDEASY at checkout for 10% off of your order. All right, so we're going to start with the cake first. You're going to need a 9x13 casserole dish or cake pan. And you're going to line it with a piece of parchment paper. And then you preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So we're going to start with our flour. And I'm using 1 cup of organic rolled oats that we're just going to grind in our blender here to make a flour. And you don't want to grind it really, really fine, because sometimes that makes the consistency of the cake a little bit gummy. So just kind of a rough flour. There we go. Literally, it just takes like 5 to 10 seconds. All right, into your bowl. Then we have 1 cup of almond flour, 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, and you want to get a good cocoa powder here so that it has that really nice dark color, because that is really what makes it look great and taste great too. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and this is vanilla powder, but you can also use vanilla extract. They work just the same. 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're just going to whisk this together first just to get out any of the clumps. Okay, so now on to our wet ingredients. And for our sweetener, instead of sugar, we're going to use dates, because that's going to give us a whole food sugar with fiber intact so that it doesn't raise your blood sugar. All right, so that's 1/2 cup of dates, 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, and we're just going to put in 1 cup of soy milk. This is 2 cups of soy milk, but we're only going to use 1 cup just to blend our dates. And this is an unsweetened soy milk because the sweetness is going to come from those dates. So just about half. And then we're going to blend that up until it's completely pulverized. All right, there we go. You're just going to pour that in your bowl along with the rest of the soy milk. And then we're just going to mix it up. Okay, now we're going to pour it into our dish, and like I said before, it's a 9x13 pan that I've already lined with parchment paper. And to get that parchment paper really down in the corners, really it's easiest if you just wad up that parchment paper and then press it down into your pan, and it molds itself to the pan much easier. All right, then we just pour that cake batter in there. All right, and then we're going to stick this into the oven, like I said before, at 350 degrees, and we're going to bake it for 38 minutes. Okay, so the next part is the pistachio cream. You know, that signature layer in the chocolate bar that is just beautiful and delicious. So one tip I'm going to tell you about here. to get that really nice green color that you want, you need to get the pistachios that are still in the shell, and you'll have to shuck those yourself. Because if you use the ones that are in the bag that are already shelled, they're roasted just a little bit longer, so they tend to go a little bit more brown. So if you can tell the difference, this is the ones that were already shelled in the package, and these are the ones that I shelled myself. They have a much brighter green color. So those are the ones we're going to use. So we're going to start with that. I've got a cup of these pistachios, and these are just dry roasted. They have a little bit of salt on them. That's pretty generally, you can get them just about anywhere. And I have half a cup of cashews, a third of a cup of dates, and a half a cup of water. And this is going to be pretty thick, so you're going to have to mix it, and you might have to scrape it down a few times to get it to blend thoroughly. Okay, so there we go for our pistachio cream, and it doesn't have to be super smooth. If it still has a little bit of chunks left, that actually will work fine in this, because in the Dubai chocolate bar, there's these little phyllo dough pieces that are kind of crunchy in there. So if you leave a little bit of the crunchiness still in there, it's just going to lend itself to that crunchy flavor. All right, so I'm going to grab my other ingredients for the chocolate layer on top. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of free printable recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook series, are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting membership community. So if you love our recipes, I invite you to join us on our mission to make plant-based cooking easy, and follow the link in the description to become a supporting member today. There's no denying the plant-based diet is a nutrient powerhouse, but did you know there are a handful of hard-to-get nutrients even well-crafted diets are often lacking? The latest research suggests that complementing your diet with a few specific vitamins, minerals, and omega-3s will help boost your energy and keep you thriving for the long term. That's why my daily health routine includes Complement Essential. Complement Essential contains the 8 critical nutrients lacking from most plant-based diets in dosages optimized specifically for us. As a special discount for our viewers, just use code PLANTBASEDEASY at checkout to save 15% off of your order. All right, for the chocolate ganache top. Oh, it's so delicious. We got a half a cup of dates, 1/4 of a cup of cashews, and if you don't have cashews, you could also use almonds or even almond flour. That works great too. 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, a teaspoon of vanilla, or half teaspoon, I'm sorry, and then half a cup of water, and 1/4 of a cup of soy milk, unsweetened soy milk. All right, and we're just gonna blend this until it is super silky and there are no chunks in this. And if your blender can't get it to that consistency, you can always run it through a sieve and just stir it through to make sure, because that top really, it needs to be really silky and beautiful. All right, there we go. Oh my goodness, look at that. Okay, so now all we're waiting for is our cake, so we'll get on to that. Okay, so our cake is done, and it's still very hot. So this part is kind of our little secret here. So the Dubai chocolate bar has this little crunchy bits in it, in the pistachio cream layer, but it's a little slivers of baked phyllo dough, which, you know, we're not going to use that, but we need to get that little crunch. And the pistachios are a different type of crunch. So this is actually an idea from my husband, Jeff. So this is 1/3 of a cup of unsweetened chocolate chips. You can use whatever vegan chocolate chips you can get too if you can't find these. You're going to just estimate here, because this cake we're going to cut in half, and it's going to be a 2-layer cake. We're going to flip that other layer on top of the other. So you're just going to sprinkle your chocolate chips on half of the cake while it's still hot, so it can melt onto that layer. And what it creates is this really nice little, just a teeny little snap that we're looking for. So if you just put this on while it's still hot, then the heat from the cake will melt the chocolate chips and then you can smooth it around. So you just have to wait a few minutes till it gets, you know, it softens them, and then really smooth it around. It doesn't have to look great because that's gonna get covered up, but just so it's well coated on that half of that layer. Okay, so now we're ready to frost. So I did stick this into the freezer for just a couple minutes to solidify that chocolate layer there, just so that when we put our frosting on, it doesn't just smear around with it. So now what you're gonna do, you're gonna cut your cake in half. And then you're gonna put the bottom layer, the layer that we put the chocolate chips on, onto your plate or your cake stand, whatever you're gonna put it on. Okay, and now we're gonna frost it with our pistachio cream. And you're gonna put it all on there. We want a nice thick layer of that pistachio cream. Because if you've ever seen the Dubai chocolate bar, it has a really thick layer of this pistachio cream in the center. All right, let's do that. All right, so we're just gonna spread it around and make sure you get it all the way out to the edges so that when you cut into it, you know, you can see all of those layers all the way to the edge. All right, so now that you have that layer done, we're just gonna put our cake on the top of that, the other side of the cake. Good. I almost estimated right. That's about half. Just maybe a millimeter off. All right, now for the best part. This stuff is, oh, it's so delicious. I'm gonna scrape it off a little bit. All right. Just gonna frost that pretty thickly on the top too. And if you don't want to put it all on there, you can always save a little bit, because that would be good in coffee or, you know, just on a piece of toast. You could use it for just about anything. It is so delicious, but I'm gonna try to fit it all on there and just get a nice thick layer on the top. And if you wanted to make this a little bit fancier, you could do this in a cheesecake tin, you know, a small cheesecake tin, and cut the cake in half so you have like a double layer round cake. But I feel like this is just easier, you know, and everybody seems to have, you know, a 9x13 pan on hand. It's a little bit quicker and easier, a little less fuss. Okay, and now just to decorate it up a little bit, I have some more pistachios here that I just chopped up really finely, and I'm just going to sprinkle it around the edge, but you can decorate this however you want. All right, that is enough for me. If you want to come in and take a closer look, because it's so cute, so pretty. Now all that's left is the taste. So I'll meet you at the table for a taste. All right, guys, let's go in for a taste. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, okay. Gotta get a little of everything. Wow. You are going to love this. Oh, that pistachio cream. And my favorite part is that chocolate topping. Come on back next week for another great recipe.